What's up, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of the Woman in Progress podcast. And I'm so excited because today we have an amazing individual in the nutrition and fitness industry who's no bullshit, direct. If you don't follow his page, like literally follow it right now because it's just going to make things super simple for you in a world of just like confusion, misinformation, frustration. And so we're just going to get right into it. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and say what's up?
Thank you for giving me more credit than I am due, Lexi. I appreciate it. Anybody that's been listening to her for any length of time, I think you guys are in good hands. So this is just going to hopefully be a reinforcement of what she's already told you because she's one of the best coaches out there. I don't say that lightly because there's a lot of bullshit in this industry and she does it the right way. She walks the walk. She talks the talk. So I'm privileged to be here and I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Look at us just hyping each other up. So I appreciate that a lot.
We need that. Definitely. We need that in this business. There's too many people tearing each other down.
It's fucking weird. But so can we start there again with your cup? For those who are listening, he has a cup, but every time he sips it, there's a middle finger. So I just can't help but be like, damn, but I love it.
It's not to you. It's not to you. It's to the subject matter.
Right. But yeah, so I do have like obviously questions that I just want to fire off. But like my first question for those listening is like, and I'm honestly just curious as well, is like, what's your story? Like what got you into fitness, one, and like what got you into help, like wanting to actually help other people from your perspective?
The short version is I was an insecure kid looking for attention and I found attention in weights. I joined the football team because they were the biggest, strongest kids at the time, and they were the ones who had the most female attention. I was starved for that, and I figured if I get jacked, then maybe girls will start talking to me. That did not change anything at all. That misconception continued throughout college. I did powerlifting then. That didn't change anything. I mean, I got down to 7% body fat. That didn't change anything. So the overarching story for any woman, especially that's listening, stop trying to get yourself as small as humanly possible because that's not where your self-worth is. First and foremost, I'll make that message. I was like the authority figure at the office during my years in finance. I used to work in kind of the Wolf of Wall Street rat race in New York Metro. I worked on a trading desk and we were trading commodities, and it basically meant we worked our ass off until about 2:30. Then we did a lot of cocaine and a lot of drinking. But I was always eating well. I was always lifting at least once a day, most days, because at that point I had no idea what recovery was supposed to be like. And, you know, I'd pack my own lunches. I'd pack my own breakfast, my own snacks. I wouldn't eat the shit that they had at work. And I just always paid attention to this stuff because I started at such a young age. It just became ingrained in who I was. I didn't know any different. I went from basically having no parental guidance at all because my parents were working 2-3 jobs apiece. So I was coming home eating like kid cuisines and hot dogs. Right. To then realizing that like protein matters and vegetables matter. And I just learned that at like 15 very intuitively. So I think it's always funny to me when like adults are 45 and they're fighting you on like eating protein and vegetables. It's like, I don't understand where the fuck you've been for the last 40 years.
Literally.
But then like I got laid off from finance. I didn't want to sit at a desk anymore. I felt like I was making no impact on the world. I was a complete fucking raging party animal. And I'm like, I can't go at this speed for much longer or else I'll die. And like anything else, I think you have to have a compulsion to be very good at this stuff. Like you have to have some kind of a screw loose to love training and to love nutrition, to love all this stuff, because it's easier to do nothing than it is to do something. And to do something, you have to have a really strong reason why. So once I became a trainer full time, I started to realize that most people just don't have routines, structures, and discipline in place. And that doesn't mean like you have to be a fucking monk 24/7. You can't have a cookie and you can't have a beer and you have to be perfect all the time and eat out of plastic containers. Most human beings don't need that. But you also have to be very reasonable with your expectations. Like I think sometimes, you know, if people have a bad week, they're like, well, my God, like all my progress is gone. Like, no. But if you continually have weeks that you're not proud of, then that's got nothing to do with body composition. Start to actually evaluate what standards and values you have as an individual. And that's really going to be the place where I challenge most of my clients and most of my audience on Instagram is to think about that stuff. Because we live in a world now that's a rat race, overwhelming, high stress society that's low functioning and has very, very low bars for self-care. And I think you and I are both trying to fight that.
Yeah. No, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head, right? Of like the society we live in, the society we were brought up in, and what things we want to take and what things we want to leave behind. Where self care was like, the fuck? Like, what do you mean self care? Like, I
Yeah.
saw my parents like working themselves to death, and I saw my mom, losing herself in being a mom and like losing her identity, not taking care of herself, and like, saying, oh, it's wait till you become a mom, wait till you have kids. And it's like, I get it now. Like, obviously, I work with moms all the time, but the moms that I work with is because they don't want to do that. They don't want to fall into like, losing their identity in mom, and they want to have that identity for themselves. And I only work with mainly women, but,
Same.
still just, oh, you do? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I have
Why
like
only women?
guys are boring to me.
You're like, yeah, no, I love
Try,
that.
try training a cat versus try training a dog. What's easier?
A dog, right?
Yeah, exactly. Dogs are
Okay.
easy. I want the challenge.
I
Like,
like that.
give me the 48-year-old menopausal woman who's tried 75 different diets, who doesn't know how to lift weights, and watch me make a massive change in her life. That's what I want, because that's the people who need help. Like, I don't need some
Yeah.
27-year-old fucking meathead who just wants to like chisel out his abs. That's not interesting to me. That's not reality. I live in San Diego. Everybody here is fucking jacked. Everybody's in shape.
Mm.
That's not the population I want to help. I want to help the mother of three who's got three jobs, who's got overwhelm at work, who doesn't know how to communicate with her husband, whose husband doesn't help out at home.
Mm.
That's who I want to help. That's who needs help. That's who's being fucked with the fitness industry every single day. That's the one who's being sold Ozempic. That's the one who's being sold pills and potions and garbage and 6-week transformations. And those are the people who need our help.
Yeah, 100%. And same here, right? Like I'm, it's like, I really want to make that deep change, right? Like really helping people change their fucking behaviors. And like how you said, like aligning their values and their principles to that, and getting to the root of like, why, if there's a part of us that doesn't feel deserving or worthy or like it's possible, like why the fuck not? Like, why can't it be you? And what have you been telling yourself why it can't be you? So just out of curiosity, like how, because I know one of the things that you talk about is like you just really make things simple. You simplify things. Where do you find people overcomplicating things the most, and how? And how the fuck can we like simplify it?
Probably nutrition tends to be the most complicated for people, or they perceive it to be. I think it's because they're being inundated with so many like eat this, not that messages.
Uh-huh.
And to be honest, like you start by respecting and understanding your starting point. Like if you're a 250-pound woman who's 60% body fat, anything you do that's positive at that point is going to evoke some type of a positive response. If you're a 140-pound woman who's been fucking weight training for 7 years and who's got everything dialed into the T, and you're looking for that last bit of a percentage point, you're probably the person I'm talking to about relaxing. Like, you don't need to keep driving yourself into the ground to try to keep getting this leaner physique, because A, nobody gives a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
B, you're not probably being paid for it. So again, who cares? And outside of just your own vanity, which I never want to invalidate, but at some point it becomes a mentally damaging pursuit. So once you understand your starting point, it just comes down to understanding it's not about what you eat, it's about how you eat. So it's not really so much the items inside the meals. Like, yes, that matters at some point. But if you're just starting out, like, let's just focus on, do you even have a routine in place? Like what, like if I asked you, how do you eat? Not what do you eat, but how do you eat? And if you don't have an answer to that, like, let's figure that answer out first. So are you eating X amount of meals per day, spaced out relatively even? Yes or no? If the answer is no, that's step one. If the answer is yes, then you can start to micromanage the meals a little bit more. Okay, what are the meals comprised of? Are they mostly protein, vegetables, natural starches, whatever? Are they whole foods based? Are they coming out of a box or a bag? Then we start to play around with those variables. Once those variables are dialed in, let's throw in some macros and some calorie targets. Now we have precision. Now we have some level of guardrails up and some rules. And that's how you naturally evolve from starting somewhere to then getting somewhere. But that doesn't mean that the person who doesn't have a structure shouldn't know or be aware of macros and calories, because I think it's like anything else. Like, if you're unaware of it, then you're leaving potential results on the table. And I think our job as coaches is to educate about the value of this stuff. Maybe not so much implement it immediately, but
Right.
make people aware of it. Like, if anybody's been on Instagram for more than 5 minutes and they've been following accounts like yours and mine, they know that they know the basics. The basics are not lost on them.
Right.
But we're having to find out, why haven't you made it work in your own life? And usually it's a time management issue, because you know how it is. Like, you don't need to make meals pretty. They don't need to taste like what you eat at the fucking restaurant, because it's just completely unreasonable. And
Right.
that's what restaurants are for. Because I grew up in a time where, like, we didn't go out to eat 7 times a week. And like, I would imagine, do you have immigrant parents or no?
Yeah, my dad's an immigrant from DR. My
Right.
mom was
So you guys grew up the same way I did. Like, I was born in Russia. Like, we didn't go out to eat whenever the fuck we felt like it. For us, it was like a treat. My mother would take us out
right.
shit once every 3 or 4 months when I was a kid. And like, that was like a special thing. And like, we went out, my brother got dressed up for it. Now it's like every single fucking second, it's Uber Eats or Grubhub or GoPuff or this, or I'm running to the restaurant, I'm grabbing that at the gas station. Like, there's no semblance of preparation of food. And it just doesn't mean that it has to be illustrious or beautiful or Pinteresty, and it has to be some macro hack. Just make a couple of different protein sources, throw them in the fridge once every 2 or 3 days. Look at your refrigerator as if you had an inventory checklist to see what's there and what's not, what you need to get. Don't even bother going to the grocery store. If you live anywhere that has Wi-Fi at this point, you probably have Instacart. Use Instacart. Have shit delivered to your house. I don't leave my apartment. Like, my car might not start for 3 or 4 days. My gym is in my garage. I'm in front of my computer or on calls most of the time. Like, I don't need, like, so for me to go to the grocery store and have to wait with the fucking idiots in Costco, I'm just not going to do it. So I'll pay some guy $10 to go do it for me. So, like, don't tell me you don't have time to go grocery shopping. If you don't have time, truly, you could literally be, I know your ass is on the phone in the car. So fucking gut out Instacart, order your groceries. By the time you walk up to your front door, they're delivered. And boom, that's one point of obstacle gone. Now all you got to do is either throw that shit into a crock pot, into an Instapot, on the stove or in the stove. And you could do that while preparing your kids' fucking lunches for the next day. You could do it while helping your kids with their homework. You could do it while putting a load of laundry in, because apparently that's hard now. So, like, instead of finding all the problems in your life, find these very simple solutions, because none of the problems that you have are all that difficult to deal with if you understand how to be able to manage your time well.
Right. 100%. Time management and energy management. And something that I say a lot to my clients is like, where are you contributing to your own overwhelm of like, I don't have time. I'm just so busy and there's so much going on. You're getting triggered as I say it. But just like, I have so much going on, and I work with so many busy women, flight attendants who are single moms who have 4 kids. Like, I know, and I know you do too. Like, you can make it work. It's a matter of, how are we overcomplicating it? How are we contributing to our own overwhelm of thinking about all the steps, contemplating all the steps instead of executing on the steps?
Just do it. Like, it's going to be messy. It's going to be so fucking messy, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't need to be pretty. As long as it's consistent. I don't really care about like quantity. I want quality.
Yeah.
Like so many of our moms that we're dealing with, like you said, like, perfect example, the flight attendant with children who's single. I couldn't imagine what level of overwhelm that individual has to deal with every single day. I hate kids. I don't want to have kids. I'm not going to get married probably. Like, I'm going to take all those obstacles away because I'm selfish. Like, I'm going to be very honest. Like, I live a life that I want to be of servitude to my population and leave my mark with other people. But as far as I'm concerned, I want to be able to get on a plane when I want to do it. I want to be able to go out to eat if I want to do it. I don't want to have to fucking babysit a kid. I get no satisfaction from it. So if you've decided to have children, you've signed up for 18 years of servitude to somebody already. So it's now your responsibility to be able to take that child and turn them into an adult. So you have to lead by example. Your responsibility is to be a responsible adult so that person can become a responsible adult. So if you're the one who's eating like shit in front of them or talking about diet culture or constantly hating yourself thin, then what do you think your kid's going to pick up on as far as an example? So if you have stress in your life and you don't know how to cope with it properly, then don't fucking hire a nutrition coach. Hire a therapist first.
Right.
Like, let's get the stuff between your ears figured out. If you're dealing with trauma that's making you insecure, if you're dealing with trauma that makes you question and overthink everything, if you have high levels of anxiety, high levels of stress, and you don't know how to handle it, then get that figured out first. Make mental health your number one priority, because every success in life stems from your mental health.
Right. Absolutely. Your mental health, right? Of, like, what did I pick up on and what do I want to pass down to my kids, right? Like, it can be so easy to just, there's this quote, I don't know who said it, but they were talking about how, like, if you're using your kids as an excuse as to why you can't, your kids are actually the reason and the excuse as to why you should and why you can't. be the example, right? Like it can be like, oh, it's just the kids and the kids. And it's like the kids deserve that from you and you deserve that for yourself. So your kids aren't the excuse as to why you can't. They're excuses to why you should and why you can.
Yeah, I just talked to my mother about this. My mother's 77. Probably one of the most pleasant, nice, stress resilient people I've ever met in my life. Like everything. The reason why I work with women is because of her. And she didn't really take care of herself because honestly, she literally didn't have time. She just did not have time. She worked 3 fucking jobs for 15 years straight.
Right.
Let's be honest. I don't ever want to invalidate somebody's problems because everybody's problem is uniquely their own. And there's certainly reasons why there's obstacles and resistances in place. But you have a washing machine that washes your clothes. You have a dishwasher that washes your dishes. You can literally hire a maid to come over your house for $100 a month to clean your house if you really wanted to. So if you can't find yourself $100, but you have a fucking smartphone in your hand, we got some problems. So instead of, again, finding and manufacturing all these problems and saying, well, I can't because of this and I can't because of that and I can't because of XYZ, I watched my mother find every solution to every problem for decades under the worst possible circumstances. My father did not help her at all. She had cancer twice and fought it by herself without telling anybody. She literally would drive herself to chemotherapy, then go to work, then drive herself to radiation at night every single fucking day for years. I didn't know about it until I was older. So I know what's possible. I've seen what's possible. I've seen people that are, and she's not smarter or better than anybody else is. Right. She just realized she didn't have a choice. And the problem I think we have today is there are choices. And there's a lot of convenient, easy choices. And then that's the path of least resistance that most people take, as opposed to embracing some of these discomforts and embracing some of these challenges and building up that stress resilience and building up that confidence that I am capable. I can overcome this. Even though my life is hard, I can still take care of myself. And I'm going to show my son or my daughter that they're capable of it too, as opposed to just laying back and letting life fuck me endlessly. And then that's the example that my kids learn, is how to just lay down and become a sheep. And I just don't accept it.
Yeah. I love that you brought up, like, wow, your mom is definitely very powerful woman. And my mom's the same way. She's very loving, all of the things. I'm so grateful for her. I love my dad too, but if I didn't have my mom, I would be fucking nuts. Like literally. But again, I digress. Like, I love that you brought up stress resilience, because we do live in a dopamine saturated world of, like, there's so many goodies just available to you at your feet. You want to watch fucking Selling Sunset for 4 hours and order DoorDash and smoke a blunt, and, you know, like, it's all there for you. You don't have to do shit to get the dopamine hit. But something that I learned, and I'm not an expert at this, but the real dopamine of the reward of actually overcoming the stressor of, like, discomfort, right? Like, you meal prep, even though you were like, you know, this is a little bit of effort, it's a little bit of time, but you do it, that dopamine rush of, like, I'm prepared. I did it this week. I showed up for myself, and continuing to build momentum off of that. And to your point, focusing on solutions. And this is what we have a lot of, it's one of our core values for Embody Her, is like solution oriented. And I got this from Kendall, of just like being a solutionist, right? Like, everything is figure outable. If you want problems, they're going to be there. If you want to look for them, they're going to be there. But what solutions can we come up with creatively together to create the convenience that it is that you're looking for?
Yeah. And I think, you know, interestingly enough, where's the pride? You know, for me, I'm no different than any of my clients. I live in California. Weed is legal here. If I get high, I'm fucking munchy.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of control for me to be able to be intentional with my eating and intentional with my actions. And I think right now there's just a lack of intention. People don't really understand the whys behind what they're doing. And I'll even bring up something as simple as, like, right, like, how many of your women and how many of my women complain about cravings? Like, I crave this, I crave that. I'm like, listen, let's understand that a craving is not an emergency, first of all. And second of all, where's the craving coming from? Because I bet when you were working for 6 hours straight and you didn't even bother to eat for 6 hours, you did not pay attention to a craving for 5 seconds. You didn't honor that craving. It didn't even pop into your head because you had way too much mental stimulation doing something else. But the second that you unwind at the end of the night, your kids are in bed and it's 9:30 at night and you're sitting on the couch, that's when your craving hits. That doesn't mean that it's an alarm bell that goes off that it needs to be fed immediately. Because what's going to happen is if you do feed that alarm bell, you're going to wake up tomorrow morning, you're going to feel like shit about yourself. And then you're going to program your mind into continuously being able to say yes to that problem. As opposed to start to back into the reason why you have these cravings in the first place. Have you not been well fed that day? Are you operating on low or very little poor sleep? Are you highly stressed and highly anxious? Are you vulnerable? So if you understand where these things are coming from, then you understand how to fight them and beat them, as opposed to being a victim to them constantly and then saying like, well, I can't lose weight because my stubborn belly fat. Like, no, the only person that's stubborn is you. You just don't want to look in the mirror and look back at yourself and say, maybe I'm the problem. And there's nothing wrong with that. I spent an hour with my group clients yesterday, talking to them about how if somebody tells you that you're not doing something in accordance with what you said you were going to do, take that as a sign of a learning experience. Like you have an opportunity to better yourself. Instead of like being triggered and saying that well, how dare you say that to me? And you don't know, be like, yep, you're right. I haven't been paying attention to XYZ variable. These are very much under my control. And I have every ounce of capability to be able to remedy this problem if I choose to do so. So I don't get to complain about the effort that I'm not putting in or the attention that I'm not paying.
Period. Like literally. And and it's the taking responsibility. And that's when you get put into your power, when you take responsibility for your life, for the way that you're showing up, for the way that you haven't been showing up. And it's to your point, like, we're not here to invalidate anybody's experience. Like there are things 100%. And if this is important for you, if you want to feel better, if you want to get your nutrition under control, work on your relationship with food, we got to take responsibility. We got to look in the mirror. And I was the same way. Like my history, I competed for a little bit in the bikini division, and like I was like Miss Bikini Olympia, like that's my goal, and like that's what I want to do, and that was like my goal. And so I was very much in it, but I would really struggle with binge eating after shows, like rebound fucking 20 pounds. Like I would feel so embarrassed, filled with shame, because like I would feel like everybody just saw me super lean. Now they're gonna see me completely different. It's fucking embarrassing and isolating. And anytime I would get a craving, I would feel like alarm bells, like, oh no, because I didn't trust myself. I didn't understand like what that craving actually meant. First of all, it obviously came down to hunger hormones. Like my leptin was fucked up and like all of these things. But I just was like, oh no, like hide the Nutella because I'm going to fuck it up right now if I give into this alarm bell. But when you take responsibility and you actually learn too, right? Like maybe hiring a coach that you trust and that you align with and getting that support, it really opens up your eyes there. But the first step is definitely taking responsibility, looking at yourself in the mirror. Which question? I did have a question for you. Like, I don't know if you noticed this, and, you know, for my clients listening, like this is probably not about you, but it's just something I went through and I still notice. Maybe it is, but have you noticed that sometimes when people start to make progress or they start to do really good, that there's like the self-sabotage might come up, or there's some fucking magical coincidental event that happens in their life, like they get sick for 2 weeks or something happens like that where they're back to square one or they fall off. Like, why, in your opinion, do people, and I have my own kind of experiences and opinions on self-sabotage and what I believe that actually means, but for those who are listening, and they're like, yes, I get all of this. I'm super consistent for a period of time, but then I just fall off once I start to make progress, or I lose the weight and then I kind of go back. And I find myself self-sabotaging whenever I'm starting to really make progress. Why, in your opinion, does that happen? And what would be your advice to somebody who does kind of like start to backtrack when they hit a new low weigh-in, or, you know, it's like, okay, you know, the reins are off, like I'm making progress. Like, why do you feel that is? And what would your advice be?
So there's a couple of different things, because you said a couple of different things. You said that there's, you know, basically I'll tackle the two different avenues of it. So the people that are enjoying progress and then get to a place of self-sabotage because then they start to slip back or they start to let go of the reins a little bit. Some of that could be due to burnout, because maybe sometimes a lot of these changes are new for them and it's overwhelming and they just kind of only have a finite amount of willpower before they just break because other things in life are going to detract their energy. That's one thing. And that just comes down to, again, do you have a strong enough why? Do you have values? Have you actually established a firm foundation, or are you still just doing protocols? Because it's the difference between like my average behavior is that I meal prep my food. I go to the gym 4 times a week. I take 10,000 steps non-negotiably. I drink all my water. I go to bed at 9 o'clock. Like, these are who I am. It's who I am. Nobody can argue that. Like, that's not a thing that I'm doing for some period of time because a coach told me to do so. It's literally who I am. So if it hasn't become who you are yet, it's still foreign to you. So just expect that it's going to be bumpy, and until it becomes embedded into your personality and until your life, it becomes a lifestyle, it's going to feel like a challenge until it doesn't. So my advice to anybody that's still in that like kind of honeymoon period of like figuring this shit out is just think about anything else in your life that you were bad at first and you got good at it. You don't remember when the switch flipped. It just kind of happened by accident. Like, you just spent enough time going through the repetitions of doing the stuff, and then you got good at it. You probably sucked as a mom the first couple of months. You probably sucked as a girlfriend for the first couple of times you did it. Maybe you still suck as a girlfriend. Who knows? You may have sucked at work. You may have sucked at sports at some point. Like, everybody sucks at something until they get good at it. Like, nobody's just like naturally born perfect at everything. And then the people that kind of find themselves in this area where they never quite get that momentum, I think it just comes back down to looking too far ahead. You know, I don't like this idea of like, let's plan everything forever, because everything changes. Like, you have to be adaptable to life. Like, life is going to change at a second's notice. And if that freaks you out, or if you don't know how to stomach that, then you're never going to be prepared to be adaptable to make adjustments on the fly. So for example, like, let's say you did a great job last night prepping all your food for the next day. You get your kids ready to go. You get your alarm on, and then your phone died and your alarm didn't go off. And now instead of waking up at 5:30, you woke up at 6:45. Your kids have to be at school at 7:15. You forget your lunch. You ran out of the house. You're fucking freaked out. You're overwhelmed. Your hair's on fire and still wet. And you're like, well, fuck, I forgot my meal prep. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. Go to Chipotle. Grab yourself a bowl, fill it with double chicken, move on with your fucking day. Grab yourself a Muscle Milk at the gas station, go get yourself a couple of apples. We'll figure this out. It's not going to be your best day, but it doesn't have to be your best day all the time. It never will be. Like, there's no such thing. When you have your best day, like, hold on to it like a blanket. But also you have to be able to let go of that, because it's not going to be like that, especially if you have children, especially if you have a crazy schedule. You're going to have to live these waves constantly. And if you don't know how to be able to bob and weave with those waves, you're never going to feel like you're in control. You're always going to feel like something else is controlling you. So the thing I work on with all my clients is, let me know about the chaos, like, and then lean into the chaos. Like, tell me about the times when shit is crazy, and watch how easy it is to get through it. Because it's really not that complicated. Like, all you have to do is just lower the bar in those moments. If your expectations are super high, but your circumstances are super hard, then you have a misalignment of what expectations look like. But if your expectations drop momentarily and then they're able to then come back up when life gets a little bit easier, well, now you're constantly in alignment with what's happening in the fluctuation of your life. And that's really the best way to address it.
I love that. And like, remaining adaptable pretty much. And a lot of the women that I work with that come to work with me, they love practicing adaptability. It's not always easy, but it is freeing, because you kind of break out of that black and white type of thinking of perfect. And, you know, everything has to be perfect. And it's like, no, the world will show you very quickly once you try it. It's like how you said, everything's perfect. My meal prep's ready. The kids are ready. And then boom, right? One little thing. So remaining adaptable. And, you know, when someone is like on this journey of like learning how to remain adaptable and all of the things, going back to like, and I'm sure this comes up for you as well, before people get into coaching or hire someone that, whether it's you or me or whoever, that they really want to work with, but there's this sense of like, I gotta wait for the stars to fucking align, right? Because I'll hear, you know, it's not the right time, it's not ready, and it might not be, right? But there is the sense of waiting for the stars to align or waiting to be ready, when in all actuality, it's kind of setting you up for failure, because when you get into coaching, it's not going to be like that. There's actually going to be plenty of fucking circumstances where it's not perfect. So what would be your advice for somebody who is kind of waiting for the stars to align, and it's been the same stories for years on end, and you know, maybe they're afraid to invest in themselves, maybe they've got burned in the past, but like, what would be your advice for somebody who like it has kind of that black and white thinking and is probably waiting for the stars to align to take action on their health.
You pay for health insurance, right?
Me? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, most people do. You pay for car insurance. You have to. They're not going to license your car without it. You're not getting into an accident every week, but you still keep paying for it, right? And then when you need the benefit of that insurance, that's what it's there for. That's all a coach is. That's all we are. We're just insurance. We're obviously, we educate, we inspire, we guide, but we're an insurance policy. We're here when the shit hits the fan. Like you don't need to fucking check in with me when things are going well. I'm confident that you know what you're doing. You're an adult. I don't need to micromanage your life. But I want you leaning into this. I want you to use the insurance policy when you're crashing, when things hurt. Like that's when you use a coach. The idea of being ready is a thing I've changed my opinion on a lot, because I think the reality is people are never quite ready to spend money, but they should always be ready to change something. Because if you're truly unhappy with how you feel or how you look, and let's say you don't want to invest money in it, because the reason why most people don't purchase coaching is because they don't think they'll follow through.
Right.
That's all it is. Like, yes, there's certainly situations where people have just hired a bad coach and they have a bad taste in their mouth. That's something that I can't stand, because I find I take a personal responsibility to do my job the best I can to uplift this industry, to make sure that all of us are making money and all of us are helping as many people as possible. So I take pride in making this industry better, and I would never leave a bad stain on this industry. But some people don't give a shit about the industry. They just care about themselves and making as much money as possible. And that's why they create these large coaching mills that spit people in and out. And those are the people that usually get burnt. But that doesn't negate the fact that there are good coaches out there, just like there's bad mechanics and bad doctors and bad veterinarians. Like, just because you had a bad experience, you've gotten burned before love-wise, and you probably got your heart broken, doesn't mean that you're going to sit there and be like, I can't ever find anybody. You'll probably move on and find a new mate. And you've recovered from that, probably carrying some baggage with you. So that's okay. But you'll know, readiness is one of those things where there will never be a moment in your life where the stars are aligned, especially if you have children. There will never be a moment where it's just nothing but green grass and blue skies in front of you, with just nothing but time to work on yourself, unless you're 60 and you're retired and the kids are out of the house, which, by the way, is like, that's half of my clients. And I'm like, this is your time now. Like, you spent the last 20 years being a caretaker to everybody else. Like, let's fucking enjoy this time now. Like, fuck your kids. They're fine. They're 25. Like, you don't need to feed them anymore. You don't need to take care of them. Like, if they have psychological problems, send them to a therapist. Like, let's figure that out. Like, let's worry about you now. And that's at some point, that's what has to happen. Like, let your kids fly and be independent, take care of yourself, because obviously we'll use the plane analogy. You can't help other people with their mask unless your mask is first on. But right. You'll never be ready. I'm still not ready. I've been doing this for 25 fucking years, and I still have challenges. I'm not motivated every day. Yeah. There's times where I fucking hate going to the gym. There's times where I don't want to finish taking that 10,000 step. There's times where I don't want to do the cardio. There's times where I don't feel like meal prepping and I want to eat fucking pizza, burgers, and wings and then smother myself in ice cream. But then I also remember, how do I want to feel? How do I want to show up in the world? What type of example am I setting for the people that are out in front of me? What did I say out loud that I promised myself I was going to do that I'm going to disappoint myself with? And that's a value-driven set of beliefs. That's got nothing to do with end results. I don't give a fuck if you lose weight or not. What I care about is, did you learn the skill sets and the mental fortitude to get through this life independently, autonomously, and confidently? That's all I care about. You'll lose weight. That's not hard. Weight loss is easy. Strength training is easy. This shit's fucking black and white. I could put it on a Post-it note for anybody. Right. But what keeps you in the game is do you have a strong enough why outside of yourself? Is there some type of motivation that just continuously can drip into your system, even at a tiny little rate, that just lets you get up again and do it again and try again and try again and try again? Because I'm 40. Like, I'm halfway done with my life. If I don't like the way the first 40 years went, it's my fault, and I have an opportunity now to fix that for the next 40. So you better believe that I'm not going to spend one fucking minute worrying about anything that I did in the first 40 years, but I'm going to make sure that I don't make the same mistakes I did the first time a second time, because at that point it becomes a choice. Right. So I think a lot of people don't realize that time is such an unbelievable currency that we just don't use properly, and that health is an asset that the second that health is gone, nothing else in the world matters. Like, I don't give a shit about your bikini body or your waistline or your diastasis recti. Like, that shit's cosmetic.
Right.
Like, that shit's cosmetic. If you have a fucking hoopty that brings you from point A to point B, it still works. Right? Your car still drives. So drive the fucking car the way it's intended to drive and take care of it to some degree. But stop worrying about the cosmetics of it. If it's not washed, so be it. If there's crumbs on the floor of the car, so be it. It's still getting you to where you want to go. When you have the bandwidth for more, that's when you start to align yourself with more of the aesthetic changes. But unless you have the consistency in place and the foundational habits in place, stop worrying about the little bits of fat you have on your ass or your hips. Like, nobody's perfect. And literally nobody but you gives a shit.
Right. Exactly. And I like how you brought up that you still struggle sometimes, because I think, and this was me too, like thinking I'll get to this magical place where I no longer struggle with motivation. And, you know, the more that I embody this version of me that's fit and healthy, the less, like, I'm not going to have that anymore. Like, it'll all just be automatic and not a struggle. And no. We're both here to tell you there is no magical place.
Because people think that once they arrive at the destination, that then they can live as that person. Like, once I lose the weight, then I can be happy.
Right.
That's awful. Like, it's almost like saying, like, once I get the bonus and the raise, then I'll start being good at work.
Right.
Like, no, like, you have to fucking earn it. Like, you have to actually do the stuff to become the person. Mm-hmm. And in the pursuit of doing the things every single day, messily and sloppily all the time, that's when you acquire confidence. That's when you build systems. That's how you find out about yourself. The end result is just the bonus. Right. And the end result is a moving target. Like you're going to, like, let's say you do get the body, you know, like, let's say you're a 190-pound woman and you spent 2 years on this fat loss journey. You get down to 145 and you're rocking a fucking bikini on South Beach and everything's great. You're still not happy. But now it's like, okay, what's next? Like, now I'm bored. I fucking fulfilled that thing. And like, this happens with high-level CEOs. This happens with business entrepreneurs. This happens with athletes. Once their competition is over, then they're like, well, fuck, I just lost my identity. That's the only thing I was. I was just this person striving for this one goal. And I don't even know what to do now because I got to it. So don't worry about the end result. The end result's going to change 5 million different times because you're hopefully going to evolve as a human being throughout that time period of doing the things. But it's the stuff that you're doing on a daily basis. It's that mundane, boring, seemingly inconsequential action that you take every single day that's building the human being that's going to be happy. It's building the person that's fulfilled, that has purpose. Because I think a lot of people don't have a purpose. A lot of people don't have fulfillment. They're not really happy. They don't really understand what makes them happy. And until you can actually dial into what that is, I don't care about macros. I don't care about sets and reps. Again, that shit's easy. We can teach you that in 2 seconds. But the person who you are is going to be the person who you're going to end up enjoying later on in life. And that starts with all the mindset work.
Right. So happy you said that. And this is why literally we do a value assessment with our clients when they come in, because I'm like, nobody knows their core values. I don't even know my core values. And you don't have to like know your core values, have them written. But to your point, like focusing on the behaviors, knowing your values and living a principle-based life where like, I've gotten to my dream body. I've lost it. I'm like happy with where I'm at. And I even started this YouTube series of like Project Build and like getting my dream body back. And I fucking fell off after 2 weeks because I was like, I literally don't care. Like it doesn't motivate me anymore. When, you know, like I think that it's okay to have some aesthetic goal. Like
sure.
That's totally fine if you have that. Like you want to grow your glutes, you want to feel sexy, totally fine. And the behavior change of that is what's going to allow you to really sustain that. And knowing that the outcome is not where the happiness is, it's really in the process and the journey of becoming that woman, becoming that version of you who has the stress resilience, who has a good relationship with food, who doesn't freak the fuck out when she has carbs and she's up 2 pounds the next day, right? Like those are the things that are freeing for you. And the feeling, I'm getting goosebumps because like, that's what we want for women, right? Is to be able to be the version of you that is so fucking proud. And like, you have these values, you have these principles, and you're living it out every single day. And that is what it's all about. And one of my favorite quotes is like, you know, a lot of the times we think the joy is in the manifestation itself, is in the outcome itself, whether it's, you know, your dream body, the house, whatever. And exactly how you said, a lot of the times we find that the enjoyment was in the journey of becoming. Like when you go on bodybuilding prep, it's like the prep fucking sucks, but it's in those moments where you want to cry and you're ugly crying on the treadmill because you're like, fuck this. And you go on stage and you pose it out. And once the show's done, it's done. But it's like, it's the journey that got you there. And not letting your identity get wrapped up in the outcome, but really understanding what is important to you. And look, if certain things are not important to you, it doesn't make you any less than. It makes you honest.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I don't think, are honest about their values. I think a lot of people say they want to feel XYZ, and this isn't really like my audience. I would say, I think it's obviously easier said than done. Like we got to look at context. Sure. But it's easy for us I think everybody wants wealth. Everybody wants a fat ass. Everybody wants to be jacked. But like what's really going to get you there is your why. So my question for you is like, how the fuck do you even know your why? Like, I feel like I ask people about their why every day. And it's like, well, for my kids, or because I saw my parents, you know, their health dwindle. And those things can be very deep whys for a lot of people. And I feel like I'm just curious, how do you help people identify what's important for them, especially in the moments where motivation's gone and they're not feeling it?
I have a lot of my clients either voice note themselves or I have them journal. So, because a lot of people don't like the physical act of like sitting down and writing because it requires them to sit down and be still for 5 minutes, which God forbid anybody does anymore. But okay, fine. Like let's leverage this little piece of technology then. Then start a text message thread with yourself and just start sending yourself voice notes. And every time you have some type of a joy or a pleasure in your life, talk about it with yourself. Be like, hey, today I realized that when I was walking down the street with my dogs and I was just listening to the wind pass through the trees and I just enjoyed nature, like I realized, holy shit, I miss being out in nature. And you just send yourself that voice note. And then you have these records of yourself, of all these little moments. I don't know if you follow, but my buddy Ryan Kassem, it's Body by Ryan Fitness. So his podcast is called These Little Moments. And I think those are the things, like I love that concept because the idea of these little moments is what so many of us don't hone in on. Like I don't have children. I'm not married. I rent. I live in Southern California. I've set up the life that I want. So I have plenty of time to ponder and self-reflect, but a lot of people don't take that time. So if you don't have the time to spend that level of internal auditing, then just start doing these little things to try to figure out what is actually making you happy every single day. When you get out of bed and some piece of joy hits you, whatever it is, in any moment, you heard a song that you liked, you felt a feeling that like kind of filled you with this level of like overwhelming, like noticeable joy. That's your why. That's the thing that you're trying to figure out. That's the thing that makes you happy, because that's where the fulfillment starts to come from. But you have to remember that, because again, as a parent with 2 kids and jobs and responsibilities, you'll forget that if you don't record it. You'll forget that if you don't think about it again, because it might not come up again for another 4 months. You may not have enough stillness in your life to be able to hone in on that feeling. So if you don't capture what that feels like in the moment, you're going to forget, or you're going to wait for it to come. It's like when luckily we live in a world of like Shazam and stuff, but like there was years before Shazam where if you heard a song and you're like, fuck, what was that? It just drives you fucking crazy. Like finding your purpose and finding your why just means that you're actually spending enough time thinking about the things that make you happy and being honest about them. And it means opening yourself up to experiences that might be uncomfortable or weird for you. And then being able to tease out what's for me, what's not for me, and then essentially just collecting that data over time. And now you've painted a picture of, okay, I don't really like being around people that don't serve me. I don't really like to drink. I just drink because it's social and it's fun. I do like being out in nature. I don't like my job, but it's giving me a means to an end. But I do like this thing that I'm doing, and maybe I can make a side business out of this, and that would make me really happy. I love being with my kids, but I don't like parenting them. So now you're starting to like understand yourself better. So I think that's the easiest thing, is just every time that something fires you up and lights up your soul, just literally send yourself a voice note and be like, today I felt amazing and this is why. And then before you know it, you have a collection of evidence that shows you what fires you up as a person.
I love that. Love it. Are you guys taking notes? Are you taking notes? No, but I love that, because a lot of times we're like, we think about like, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? What am I supposed to do in this life? And it's like, listen to your body. Like, what are you reacting to? Like when you feel great or you finish a, fucking Pilates class and you're like, oh my God, I feel amazing. Like that was great. I love the vibe of it. Or you go lift and you feel strong and confident and like that bitch, right? And you're just feeling great. Like listen to those nudges, listen to those feelings. And think about the moments in your life where you felt the most satisfied and alive and joyful. And think about the moments where you felt the most unsatisfied and not good. And those are going to show you like your away values, what you want to move away from to move you towards what you want to move toward. And so I know that we're talking about our why and what keeps us going, what keeps us in that. And I just had a thought because it is something that comes up, not just for me, but just like for clients in general, which I get, and that's like boredom. And I know that we talk about this all the time as coaches, like you gotta learn how to just do the boring shit. Like you just have to learn how to do that. But I'm curious your thoughts on navigating when shit just feels boring and mundane. And like, okay, I get it, so perspective. Tell me more about that.
It's just perspective. I mean, how old are you?
I'm 26.
Do you remember this? I'm sure, I don't know. I'm going to make an assumption that you probably weren't an 90s alternative rock listener.
I mean, now I am, but no.
So there was a song by Harvey Danger called Flagpole Sitta. And there's a line in it that says, if you're bored, then you're boring. And I find that to be very consequential because it's very true. If you're bored, then you're just a boring person. Because like, I'll use my mother as an example. That. My mother can make any day her birthday.
I love that.
She can walk out of the house dressed to the fucking nines to go to TJ Maxx in West Palm Beach and go rack shopping for 3 hours. And she's happy as a fucking clam because she just loves that thing. And she's never bored. She finds little things in life to just find and extract value out of. And I think the reality is that there's a difference between responsibilities and excitement. Like if you're an adult and you have kids, you have a responsibility to just show up as an adult. Like this whole concept of like adulting is hard. I'm so fucking tired of it. I can't even tell you.
Me too.
Like you have this idea that like we can't cook food because that's boring. And then like if it doesn't taste like McDonald's every single time I put it in my mouth, that's boring. And then, like my workouts aren't fun enough. Like if you're trying to have fun with eating and training, what does your life consist of? Like that sounds awful. Like fun for me is going and exploring a new coffee shop 20 miles away from where I live. That's fun for me. Fun for me is taking my dogs on the boardwalk and people watching. Fun for me is going to a music festival, going to a new restaurant, going to a movie, getting on a plane. Like there's other fun outside of eating, drinking, and training. Like I don't have fun training anymore. I don't walk into the gym like, yeah, it's going to be a fucking fun workout today. Like, no, it's my job. My job is to go into the gym and train and take care of my body. That's my responsibility. My responsibility is to fuel myself with food that makes me feel good and makes me operate at my highest level. I don't derive fun from that stuff. That's a perspective problem. So if you're somebody who doesn't like doing the mundane stuff, I feel bad for anybody that you're responsible for because you're teaching them that the basics don't matter. You're teaching them that the basics have to be fun. The basics will never be fun. You think Michael Jordan liked fucking shooting 5,000 free throws after every fucking game that he lost? That's why he was Michael Jordan. Like every one of the best people in our world who either made the most money, had the most success, whatever, every single time they failed, they spent even more time working on their craft. Mm-hmm. And it was because they got so good at the boring basics over the course of a lifetime that they were able to then enjoy those higher levels of success. But like, yeah, meal prep is fucking boring. Waking up at 5 sucks. Taking 10,000 steps on purpose sucks. Drinking more water, but that's got no flavor in it sucks. Life is never going to be this exciting margarita on the beach constantly in Cabo. That's just not how it works. But if your expectation is going to be that it's going to be constantly fun and I need to be constantly stimulated, then you're just a fucking dopamine junkie at that point. And you have no idea of how to live life in the middle, because the middle is where it's going to normally be. So if you can't navigate that middle, and you can't appreciate and extract a little bit of value and a little bit of joy out of every day, then you have no semblance of longevity, and you have no sustainability ready for you, because you're going to always be expecting something to happen for you versus you manufacturing that for yourself.
Love it. Literally mic drop, because, you know, like it's how you said, majority of the time it is going to be just crossing off your, what is the fucking quote? Your P's and Q's, your T's and I's, crossing your T's, dotting your I's, right? And showing up, right? And I love how you said, if it's always boring, you're boring. Because I truly believe, like, when I would really struggle and be like, you know, when I shifted my perspective to like, no, Lex, like, life and to your point, like having that balance. But every time I go to the gym, like, I don't always feel like it, but I make it a party on the way there. Like, I'm at least gonna put on some house music or some Limp Bizkit, to your point of like the 90s, and I'm gonna fucking rage and get myself in there. I might still be moping and, oh my god, I gotta set up for hip thrusts, womp womp. But it's like how you said, like, I like how you mentioned shifting your perspective. Like, it's my responsibility to take care of my body. I mean, it's my responsibility to have, and that's when, you know, you're maturing in your fitness journey. Like, I want strong glutes, not just for aesthetics, but literally because like my lower back, and like, I want a strong core, and I want strong hip flexors, and I want healthy joints, and that shit matters to me now, right? And I think a lot of women too, I think a lot of women are shifting. Of course they want the looks, but it's like, I want to have longevity. I want to be upright when I'm in my 80s and not fucking hunched over and really like struggling, right? Like, we want to create this life for ourselves. So that's super, super powerful. And there are things that you can do, guys, to zhuzh it up. Like, if you want to add, like, you know, go to a fitness class once a week that you really enjoy, but like, your core things are never always going to be enjoyable. And we just gotta like shift our perspective. Romanticize your life when you can, is what I tell my clients. It's not always going to be romantic and amazing when you go get groceries, but if you can, you know, like, if you have the means to, when I meal prep, this isn't the case all the time, but sometimes I do like to play some music in the background, or, you know, have my partner just there watching me while he's on his phone working to have some company, or, you know, like, make it a vibe. Is it always a vibe? No. Sometimes I'm just having the regular old beef rice meal prep with some green beans, but it's the fluctuation. It's understanding how to adapt, understanding that it gets to be fun, but it's not always going to be fun. And if you can only operate when it's fun, well, my girl, we're going to have to shift that.
So. Well, I think social media has made people think that like everybody's life is better than yours. Right. You like, cause everybody's showing that you like that highlight reel. Like, I look so good while I meal prep and I have so much fun while I train. The reality is like, that's not how it is.
Right.
Like that girl probably had to put on makeup for 3 hours and have a camera crew follow her around the fucking gym. That's not what she looks like every single time she's in the gym. She probably has her hair in a bun with her hat on with a fucking hood over her head 99% of the time. But for that photograph, she had to look good because that's her marketing scheme. So like, it's just not like that. Like I fall into this trap too. Like, I live in San Diego. I have a lot of rich friends here whose lives I every once in a while I find myself being jealous of because they have more financial freedom than I do. And they just do cool shit. Like, I have a buddy of mine who is in a fucking car club and he drives an Aston Martin and he lives in this like swanky apartment overlooking downtown. And like, I go over his house. I'm like, this is fucking cool. But I don't not like my life. Like, I enjoy my life too. Like, you can certainly be envious of stuff here and there, but also like, remember the context of where your envy is coming from. Like, my buddy who's got the Aston Martin, he has a job that he has to fucking fly around the world for 25 out of 30 days a month. Wow. Do I want to be on a plane 25 out of 30 days a month? No, I probably don't. Like, do I want to be away from my loved ones that long? Do I want to be away from my routine for that long? No. Do I want to work from fucking sun up to sundown every single day during those weeks to live the life that he lives? No, I want some level of freedom. Right. So if you're going to be jealous of somebody's life, be jealous of all of it and understand that like all you're seeing is the tip of the iceberg. You're not seeing the effort, the work, the sleepless nights, the bullshit. You're just like evaluating their life based on the picture that they posted in the Aston Martin or on the private jet or at the gym glistening because their abs are on fire because they're super lean. And like, it's all such bullshit, smoke and mirrors. That's why for me, every time I have a bad day, I post about it on Instagram. Every time I have a shit meal, I post about it on Instagram. Every time I'm feeling like a fucking slob. I posted about it on Instagram because that's how real life is. I don't have it all figured out. I'm not perfect. I do have body dysmorphia issues. I do have food relationship problems. I do have binge eating tendencies. I don't want to say that. I have overeating tendencies. I don't train like a rock star every single time I go to the gym, and I'm not super fucking lean because I don't care to be. I don't get like I'm like you right now. I just don't give a fuck. I just like there's things in my life that are more important than being shredded. Now, let's say, for example, there's always this party in that happens in July at my buddy's house in San Diego, and it's like 3 floors of just half naked people who are beautiful. So when I know that that's coming up, I just kind of tighten shit up for like 4 weeks. That's what 4 weeks to the beach is. It's the idea of living in perpetual maintenance and always being prepared. So like all I do is I just dial up my nutrition a little bit. I dial up my training. I maybe add a little more cardio. I shave my stomach. I shave my armpits. I shave my legs. And then I show up to I show up to the party feeling good because now like I'm probably one of the only jacked people there because everybody in San Diego is either a bodybuilder or like they're like fucking like rail thin or vegan. So I'm one of the biggest people there. So if I just do a little bit of cosmetic work, I'm now all of a sudden the statue there. And like I walk in with all the confidence in the world, and I don't give a fuck that somebody's leaner than I am. I don't give a shit that somebody's better looking than I am because I'm still there. I'm showing up as the best version of myself. I didn't have to kill myself to do it, and I reap all the benefits. So like that's but that comes with time. Like I'm 40. I'm not worried about what other people think about me. And if you're somebody who's in their 30s, 40s, God forbid 50s and 60s, and you're still living life waiting to be judged by somebody else, fuck them. They don't pay your bills. Like I have a woman the other day who was like, I wish I could eat beef and eggs in the morning like you do. I'm like, why can't you? She's like, well, I have to be in the office early. I said, okay, prep your meal before you start the day or the night before. Stick it into a Tupperware container, throw it in the microwave. It works. She's like, well, what if it smells bad? Who fucking cares? Like, are you going home with these people? Does like Linda at the office corner desk next to you pay any of your fucking bills? Does she take care of your kids? Is she the one that has to live inside your skin? Fuck Linda. Who gives a shit? Right. I fucking eat tuna packets on planes constantly. I don't think I give a shit. Your fucking kid is screaming. I'm not going to yell at you for it.
Right.
Like, just stay in your own fucking lane and water your own grass. Like, stop worrying about what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, I love that you said that. We need a shirt that says "Fuck Linda." It's going to be the new thing. No, but
I don't want to keep saying Karen's the problem. Sometimes it's Linda.
Sometimes it's Linda. And if your name's Linda listening, we love you. And it's okay. But, I love how you said that. Like, I always say even for me, recovering people pleaser, I always say like healing the good girl syndrome, nice girl syndrome of like, be a good girl and don't put the tuna in the fucking microwave. And I mean, I don't know who puts tuna in the microwave, but like, don't, just like bother people. And it's like, no, we're activating that bitch who literally is like, I need protein. And like, if you're going to make a comment, like, what, do you want some? Like, are you hungry? Like really being able to do that for yourself because you matter. And like, at the end of the day, when you go home, that's what all the fuck you have is you. When the kids are in bed and, husband's asleep or whatever the case may be, like all you're left is with you and your choices and the way that you showed up. And so like, think about that. The next time you don't want to do something because of what somebody else might think or say, or, you feel like you should be living a certain life on social media. And I'm glad that you talk about how imperfect you are because same, like even with business, you know what I mean? I think when people think that you do what you love full time, it's like, I'm so grateful. And that doesn't mean that I don't have fucking meltdowns sometimes. Like it's not easy. Constantly. I have a lot of responsibility. Like I have clients, I have team members, I have responsibility. And I chose that, like to your friend who has that swanky life, like he chose that. Kids, you chose that. And so I really, really love that you brought that up. And I know so many people are going to get so much value from this. And what would be your just like last final words for those listening? And, summer's coming up. They want to look good, but they want to look good year round. They want to feel good. They're really like making the shift of all my entire life. I've always wanted to dial in for the event, but this time, like I want to make it a lifestyle. I really want that change. I really desire that. Like, what would be your final kind of words of wisdom for them?
focus on the next 24 hours. That's all you got. That's literally all you have control over. Like, plan slightly ahead. If you know what your schedule is going to be the next day, great. Plan for it. If you know you're going to be, if you know you got, a lot of parents have kids in sports, plan for it. You got a busy day at work of phone calls. You're not going to be able to eat. Find out when you're going to be able to sit down for 10 minutes and have a meal. Like, just be prepared for at least one day ahead. That's it. Don't worry about 5 days from now. Don't worry about 5 weeks from now. Don't worry about any of that shit. Take that shit out of your head. Start thinking more short term. Because here's the reality. It can all fall apart within 24 hours. You can have all the best laid plans. I got all my meals prepped. I got my workout on my calendar, but then I popped a tire and then my kid got sick. All right. Are you a failure now? No. Like, you just got to shift. So know and be prepared for the next 24 hours. And then if it doesn't go your way, don't expect it to go your way. Always think worst case scenario. Like, on my worst day, am I still keeping some semblance of pride towards my actions? So am I making myself proud in some way? Little ways, little tiny, mundane, stupid fucking tasks. Like, I drank my water that day. Okay, good. Like, you nailed 75 ounces of water. That was better than you did yesterday. And that was the best you could do. Great. Because you're not always going to show up with like 100% full battery. Right? Like, it's like a cell phone. Like, some days you're fucking operating at 80%. Some days you're operating at 150%. Some days you're operating at 20. But whatever it is, think about the next 24 hours and be enthusiastic. Like, have some level of enthusiasm. Because I think so many people, like, have you ever been into a coffee shop and like there was like 2 different baristas, and like one barista was super pleasant and she's just rocking and rolling. She's smiling. She's talking to people. And then you got like that miserable twat that's sitting in the fucking like.
No, why is this so accurate?
Like, just staring at you, waiting for you to like tell her your coffee. It's like, if you hate being here, then quit. Like, you can get on OnlyFans tomorrow and make plenty of money. You don't need to be here. So like, just whatever it is in life that you're doing, show up with some level of enthusiasm, because that's going to radiate that energy, that positivity is going to pour out into the world. And that's what you're going to attract back. So now everybody that you're around is going to be uplifted and more positive. So if you're going to be mopey and miserable constantly, that's what you can expect. So 24-hour vision, and just be pleasant and be enthusiastic.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, I feel like we did our job today. And I'm excited because it's going to help a lot of people just continue to shift, like shift. We're doing our work in the industry, like helping people shift and grow and really do this for the behavior, really do this for their why, and so they can live a better quality life and feel good in your skin and all of the things. So thank you so much for sharing this podcast episode with me. And if you guys want to follow him at number 4 weeks, number 2, the beach.
You got it. That's it. I will answer all your DMs if you want to yell at me, if you want to pick my brain, whatever it is, I'm here for it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, guys. I would love to hear your takeaways. Please reach out to us if this helped in any way, gave you any type of it just feeds me when you guys give me feedback. It motivates me. So I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Thank you.